Okay, I'll just start. This can be totally interactive. Like, you guys can jump in with questions. If you ask me something and I feel like it might take too long, you can shoot me an email after the webinar and I can get back to you. So I'm just going to jump in. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Debbie Wittenberg. I'm from Evanston, Illinois, which is right outside of Chicago. I think since like the earliest I can remember, I wanted to be in the entertainment business. So I grew up doing that, TV, a lot of theater in Chicago. And I went to Columbia College, Chicago, got my degree in theater, and then moved to LA in 2001. And since I've been here, I've worked in or participated in pretty much every aspect of the industry. Now I do voiceover and my business only, which is very cool. And just a quick little backstory on, the Actors Concierge. A majority of the business, like retouching, I've been doing that for years, self-taught, like helping my actor friends retouch their headshots and coach them on auditions. And, you know, friends were getting callbacks and booking. And I'm like, this is really cool. I'm like really good at this. So about 2 years ago, like the end of 2018, I launched the self-tape portion, the self-tape studio of my business. And then I became the Actors Concierge. Hi, okay, I'm seeing people now. So I'm doing this webinar today. I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about your home setup if you're doing self-tapes by yourself, as far as like really technical things like how to do your lighting and your backdrop. I feel like that's something you look up on YouTube or you figure out yourself. It's a lot of DIY. If you guys saw my studio in the beginning, you'd be like, oh my gosh. So it takes time to kind of get your space. You have to practice, you have to try different lighting. So you can email me with questions, but I'm gonna leave that mainly up to the actors. So I kind of, since I've done my business, I feel like the things I've learned, like that I want to share with you guys today, are a lot of the frequently asked questions, like how to approach self-tapes, like the do's, the don'ts. And then at the end, I really just want to share with you my personal thoughts about what I've seen really works, that when my clients have gotten callbacks and bookings, I'm like, yeah, that's the trick. So let me just start with the basics, which probably a lot of you know. And if you don't know, that's great. And if you do know, it's always just great to go over basics again. I feel like the first thing I want to say, whether you're taping at home with a roommate, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, friend, or you're coming into a studio, when you get your audition, approach the self-tape just like you would back in the day when you were going into casting in person. And what I mean by that is work on your sides, be familiar with them, consider your wardrobe, hair and makeup if you're a woman. Also, guys, maybe powdering, you guys do your thing too. And be prepared, because I'm noticing with self-tapes, there's a little bit of that indulgence, like, oh, I have a self-tape, I can do it this many times because I can do it until I get it right. And while that is true, and while that's fine, and I will spend time with my clients until we get it right, it's a little pitfall, because then as the session goes, I feel like the spontaneity is lost, or something's lost in the, I can do it 50 times. So I do like when actors come in with mostly, they know what they want to do with this audition, they're familiar with the sides, and then I can work with them. That would be like my first, like, how to approach. I guess I'll just go over a few basics. Wardrobe, I mean, I feel like you guys probably know this, don't wear white, don't wear stripes, but dress the part. And I feel like this is also a trend with headshots, as you guys know, over the years. Like, we go through that phase where it's like they just want the headshot with nothing specific, just a great headshot. Then it was the trend of, we want you dressed as a doctor, a police officer, like super specific, and it's always changing. I don't really know maybe what the industry standard is, but I'm going to tell you my opinion. I feel like, other than like, you're a lawyer, you're going to dress in a suit, or you're a techie person working at like a Google place, you're going to dress however you would want for that character. But if you get that co-star or that guest star for a doctor or for a cop, don't spend money on wardrobe. But if you have a lab coat, if you have a police uniform, I say wear it. And this is why. I know it's like a little bit on the nose, but imagine this. all these self-tapes went out to actors on Actors Access, and then agents who are, their clients. So casting, producers, whatever, are seeing all these tapes. Now, I'm not saying they don't have imaginations and they can't see past it, but imagine they're seeing 100 of everyone doing this cop role. But then there's one actor that's actually dressed as a cop. Well, if you think psychologically, they're watching it and they're like, oh, that's the cop. It's just like that little extra thing that I think now, because everything's digital and they're seeing so much, I'm like, dress up. Don't go crazy. You guys know what I mean. But I would be like, yeah, if you like, I had a guy yesterday with a policeman. He actually used to be a Santa Monica police officer. He came in the full gear. And I got to tell you, it was really cool for the TV show Station 19. It just looked great. He had a holster to play with and it gave him the character. Okay. Let's talk about props. That's a big thing. I feel like actors ask me this all the time. And there's also kind of some do's and don'ts and maybe pet peeves on the other side of it. I feel like my slogan is, when using a prop, use a prop wisely. Use a prop to punctuate the sentence of a thought. That is the farthest I ever want you to go with a prop. And I'll give examples. Okay, no, wait. First, I want to say, if there's something in the script, like here, I have an example. This is a super old TV show from Kath and Kim, but it opens with Kim sits on the couch eating Cheetos and watching TV. Her friend goes over to a mini stepper and Kim's first line is, "What are you doing?" So in that case, I'm like, no, do not sit there eating Cheetos in the audition. It's going to be distracting. It's not going to work. So in that case, no props. But let's say there's a prop, like for instance, smoking cigarettes, which I have had, especially for a motion capture, where someone had to smoke for the whole scene. But let's say there's a juicy theatrical scene where you're talking to the person, they say something you don't like. In the stage direction, it says you light a cigarette, you take a huge drag, you blow it out, and then you say your line to that person. Let's just say your next line is, "I don't agree with you." So I would say no, you can do no prop because it's the feeling. So if they say something you don't like and you take the beat, "I don't agree with you." It still alludes to the smoking of a cigarette. But if you are going to use the cigarette, you're going to use that cigarette wisely. So I'm just going to show you guys an example. And I would use a real cigarette. So if you're going to use it, you're talking to this person, they say something that really offends you. "I don't agree with you." So you took the cigarette, you took your exhale, you took your moment, you stamped it out, and then you said your line. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's using the prop wisely. Because if I just held it for the rest of the scene, "I don't agree with you," and it's here and you're trying to smoke, it's super distracting. So that's what I mean by punctuate the sentence or thought with a prop. Cell phones are an exception. I've had people in for TV shows now where like the whole audition is on a cell phone. So let's talk briefly about that. So there's this thing. Okay, wait. If you guys have ever had a commercial audition where you're supposed to be driving, oh my God. When I was doing that, you would sit there and you're like, "I drive every day. Why am I like," you're like, all of a sudden you're like, "Why do I feel so stupid? I don't know how to drive." It's like the weirdest thing, an action you do every day. And then they're like, "Just pretend you're driving." You're so awkward. It's the same with cell phones. So there's this actor thing where they're like this when they take out their cell phone, or like this. And I'm like, you guys, we don't, in real life, we click the button, can you guys see me? You scroll through, you're like, okay, yeah. Oof, mom just texted me. It's simple. It's not this. So if you take a cell phone out, don't fake it. Have your screen off though, but take it out, take your time, you open it, you're like, oh my God, wait. There's a work emergency. Can I just, I'll get back to you. Hang on one second. So do it real. You don't have to pretend you're texting. And then really quickly, if you have a scene when you're on the phone, for me, it's all about eye lines. So let's say you get a phone call in the middle. So you're talking to someone and then your phone rings. So you reach for it. So immediately, I don't know if this is good because I'm on my iPad. You just, in real life, we were like, okay, hold on. Hey, yeah, no, wait, I'm in the middle of something, but yeah, I can talk. Okay. Yeah. No, I'll be there at 5. Okay. Okay, bye. Click it off and put it away. And it sounds really simple, but you'd be surprised at how it just gets all funny. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about cell phones. I wrote down the minute you use a prop badly, it takes the viewer out of the scene. So I would just say sloppy props. It affects how the scene is viewed. So I always have like this thing, crisp beats. So that's with props. The cigarette was a puff, a put it out, a line, crisp. The phone, answer it, talk, click it off, put it away, crisp. That's what makes a prop work. When it gets crazy, even if the acting is good, I feel like it just makes the actor look green. And then, I don't know. I think it could affect how they view the whole audition. So when my clients are here, I never let them do messy props. Sides, to hold or not to hold. That is the question. Okay, I have a few thoughts on that. So, and it will also lead into the talk about being verbatim and being word perfect or off book. But let's just say you've got your sides. You want to hold them. You just got this audition. It's 6 pages. Oh my God, this happens all the time. And like you got it and it's due the next morning. You book a last minute self-tape and you're not fully off book. So you're going to hold them. Well, there's a couple things. I want to talk more about the technique of holding them versus being verbatim. So one thing is that even when you have the best lighting, like my studio set up, anytime you is it doing that? Can you guys see how the light changes? I don't know if it is, but the white page, like even if I'm white balanced on you guys, it does something funny and it's a little distracting. So I don't know if you can see. Let me show you how to hold your sides for the self-tape, which I feel like you would do in casting. Okay, I know my head's cut off, but do you see I've kind of got my elbow locked in right here and the sides are like right here? Okay, so you're just gonna hold them casually down there and I definitely say unstaple them. Okay. So when they're right here, you can just easily look down, grab your line, come up, do your eye lines, grab your sides, and it's right here. The thing I've noticed with actors when they're holding their sides is that they're like this, they're, using it to gesture, they're slapping their leg with it, you hear all this, and you're just like, okay, everyone calm down. Gently hold them. It's not a prop, it's not something, it's just like there for you to glance and look up. And to be honest, I'm sure all of you guys are seasoned. Cold reading is a skill. It is literally a skill. Like Brenda Pickleman knows, I've been studying cold reading since I first started acting. Like it kind of, it's a, oh my God, what's the word I'm saying? I'll come to it. But it's just something you have to practice. It's a technique and it's a muscle. That's what I was going to say. Cold reading is a muscle that you have to develop. So if you're holding your sides for the audition and you're going to use them, you just have to get comfortable with little pauses. When you're acting, it feels like one pause is like 10 minutes long. I'm telling you, trust that it's not. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I don't know my line. I'm just going to show you because I know it's going to feel uncomfortable on my end how long of a pause it'll be, but I guarantee you on your end, you're like, okay, it wasn't that bad. So, okay. Wait, you can't use the stepper. Wait, I'm using it. Yeah, okay. And then I'm going to use it next. Okay, that was probably horrible. But what I was trying to do was say my line and then, you grab it. I'm going to use it. Hey, don't use the stepper. Yeah, I want to use it next. So it feels awkward, but actors end up being either their faces down the whole time. They're like, don't use the stepper. Well, I want to use it next. And then they'll do things like, or, and throw in those words that they think will hold them over to get the line. But I just feel like the pause is better if you're in character. You go down, you get your line, you're in the thoughts of the character. You don't have to fill all the spaces, if that makes sense, if you're cold reading. Okay, that's done. But honestly, if being off book is the best, I'm not saying word perfect or verbatim. I'm saying it's always better to be free without the sides. I know when you go into casting, I actually tell actors to hold their sides because there's something different when you're in person. When you're in person, casting directors feel nervous when you're not holding your sides because they're like, oh my God, is the actor going to blank? Because so many of us do. So even if you literally never reference it, you hold your sides in casting. I don't know why, but you do. For self-taping, I would say do the best you can to be off book. So when you're here, either in a studio or at home, you have more room to play and you just don't feel like, you're married to it. So I guess I'll go into being word perfect. There is actually a little rule about it. Overall, I say F the words. Do you know what I mean? If you're in the character and you're engaged and you're reacting off the reader and you're in it, you're going to win that audition. That's a win. I don't care if the line is, I asked her at 10 this morning, she's not coming. And you say, she's not coming. I asked her at 10 this morning. It doesn't matter if you're involved in the scene. The only times it's actually really important to be word perfect is if you have a half-hour double-spaced comedy. I'm sure you guys know what I mean, but just in case you don't, that's like sitcom. So see how the script I was just reading off of is like the normal, script. When you see the scripts like this, I know I've written all over this, but where it's double-spaced, that also is an indicator, which is going to be one of my points of preparing for your audition, that it's a multicam half-hour show. So it's going to be a bigger audition anyway. I'll get to that in a minute. But if it's double spaced, I feel like you have to have a lot of respect for the words, because for that type of comedy to fit it into that 30-minute segment, those staff writers have deliberated over each word. Each word is a moment, a beat, because it has to fit into, the segment. So I really feel like when you get those, you have got to kind of be word perfect. That's the only time with my actors, I'll be like, okay, let's do that again. This line is this. And commercials, when you're getting your self-tapes for commercials, again, the advertisers, like those words are pretty important because they have what's an ad at the most 30 seconds, usually 20 seconds. And the way they've written it is so specific. I'm not saying you can't ad-lib. This has nothing to do with ad-libbing. But if you have a commercial audition, at least get your lines right, and then you can play around it. And the same with half-hour comedy. Make sure you have your lines right, and then we can play. Otherwise, don't get caught up in your head about lines. I have actors that are really like, I want to be word perfect. And I'm like, no, I want you to just be in the scene. Okay, that's it. I'm moving on. Okay. I don't know, maybe just a couple quick basics. Eye lines, it seems super basic, but I feel like actors get really thrown off by it. So I'll just repeat the things that you probably already know, just a friendly reminder. I'm looking into the camera lens right now. So your eye lines are always literally right next to the camera. So I'm looking into the camera right now, which you don't do. So then I would put someone right there. I'd put someone right there. If there was a third person, maybe right there, or like right there. That's it. Just boom, 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 boom. And it looks bigger. Like I'm literally looking right here. It probably looks like I'm looking further. The worst thing you can do is put someone over there or over there or over there, the profile. It doesn't look good. They can't see your eyes. And it's kind of a pet peeve. A lot of the agents that I have relationships with that maybe their client didn't come to me, they'll be like, oh my God, Debbie, she did the whole scene talking to the person over there. And I'm like, okay, well, tell them to come to me next time. So just simple eye lines, and make sure they're, pretty level, and a lot of, you're talking to a kid. So maybe you would do, you have to have someone helping you, because like maybe to me that feels good, but it might be too low. So maybe right there it looks like I'm like, oh, it's okay, honey. And then you talk to the adult. So, whatever, you guys get it. Oh, this is silly, but I felt like I wanted to mention it. Blinking. I know this sounds crazy, but this might fall into the actor habits, the bad ones that I'm going to talk about. When you blink a lot, when you're doing a scene, it's super distracting. And if you see film and TV, actors almost never blink. When they're in a close-up, they are looking, I know I'm looking right into the camera, but they don't blink. They're talking, and then, they'll blink when it's natural. But I get a lot of actors that I think when they're nervous or don't know their lines, there's like a lot of blinking, and it's, it doesn't look good, and it's distracting. So I just thought I would mention it. It's like something, just to be like, oh, wow, I do that. And then maybe try to start learning to just do your lines without the blinking. Okay, wait. Stage directions. Okay, I think that's super important to talk about. I know, no, wait. Okay, not the part about like the cigarettes and like the props, but stage directions in the sense of, okay, I'll give you an example. Not the cop I said that wore the uniform, but I did have another cop one 2 days ago, and he was like coming up to some kids, and he's like, you guys, everyone stop, what are you doing? Talking to the kids. And at some point, him and his buddies like grab a guy and get him to the ground. So let's talk about that type of stage direction. Obviously, your thing's on a tripod. So if I was really going to do that, I'm going to go out of frame. You're not going to see me. So I think for those types of things, when it's physical or you grab someone, just allude to the physicality of that. So I had him do, rather than like they're tackling him, he just kind of took a step forward. Like it was very like an aggressive. And then I jumped right in with my line for him. So hopefully you have a reader that will save you and do those things. And I was like, whoa, dude, get off me. What are you doing? As the reader. But he just kind of went in, and it looked like he was going to grab the guy. So alluding to things. If you do grab someone like right here, like you can't see my arm, but I'm like, get over here. And it looks like I'm doing something. So that would be when the actors are like, it's like too much stuff like this, it's also a little distracting. So try to stay in the frame and just allude to stage directions. So maybe entering and exiting. There's a lot of scripts, obviously, where like you're in the middle of something, you start to leave and someone calls you back. So it's kind of the same thing with eye lines. The smallest movement looks big on camera. So I'm usually just literally a pivot will look like you're about to leave. So if we're talking and that person pisses me off and I'm like, dude, I'm out of here. And then he's like, no, wait, come back. It's like that much. Don't start like going off and then coming back. It can just be like, man, I don't have time for this. Fine. What do you want to talk about? So, and that will give the feeling of it. Oh, wait. Okay, this is one. So kind of talking about that. Where did I write this? It's the end of the audition. Oh my God. Okay. So when scenes end, I feel like I get two kinds of actors or main responses, and I've labeled them. There's the frozen actor, and there is the actor that runs off camera as soon as they can. So let's talk about that. The scene ends, whether you have the last line or not. Let's pretend I have the last line. And where's the script? Kath and Kim. Kim says, her friend says, oh my God, look at Tyra on the TV. And I look and I'm like, she's fugly. So I've got the last line, she's fugly. Okay, the script is outdated. No one says that anymore, but she's fugly. This is the frozen actor. She's fugly. And then they just hold their last thing. And I'm like behind the camera, like, and cut. you know, and then you fade out. So this does kind of lead into buttons, and I'm going to talk about an improving, but just remember this in real life, like this character has life. The scene, your world as this character does not end when your line ends. So if I was my audition and my last line was "it's fugly" and the scene is done, I would probably ad lib because I think that's always cool. But I mean, even a non-verbal ad lib, I would go, "Oh, she's fugly. What is she wearing? Ew." You know, you could just ad lib that out, or if you don't want to talk, you can be like, "She's fugly." Mm-mm. Just something to keep going. And then when you edit it, the fade out or to the next scene, it just looks like you're still living your life and the camera stopped. And I just think that's really cool. It's like that extra thing that shows you're like invested. Okay, here's the actor that runs off camera. Oh my God. I've had to like slap some of my regular clients. I'm like, "Stop running off camera." So then they would go, "She's fugly." I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, but it's like this nervous thing of, what do I do if I don't have lines and the scene is over? And they just, every time they're like, "She's fugly." And I'm like, you were walking off while you were saying your line. Let the casting director and the people drink you in every freaking second you can. So don't run off and don't be the frozen actor. Even if it's just little gestures to whatever, you guys get it. Okay. So maybe ad-libbing, because we were kind of talking about being word perfect. When I'm just checking time when I look over there. Okay. Ad-libbing do's and don'ts. Okay. I'm kind of a big proponent of, if that's the right word, ad-libbing, but it kind of ties into my props thing. You have to use ad-libbing responsibly and wisely. The biggest thing I love and that what I think stands out for actors on self-tapes is an ad lib into the scene and an ad lib out. That way you're not necessarily you don't know who the writer is if they're like, "They're messing with what I wrote." But it's such a great way to show your personality, your authenticity, your take on the character while still respecting the scene and then giving the life of it. So, an ad-libbing in, and that's also something that's a pet peeve, kind of like the frozen actor or running off when the scene starts. So let's just use that Kath and Kim one. Kim's line is, okay, Kim sits on the couch eating Cheetos and watching TV. Heather goes over to the mini stepper. Kim, what are you doing? Heather, your mom said I could use the stepper. Okay, so you guys get it. So we're not going to eat the Cheetos. So I get the actors that just start on their line. So it would be like, I'd be like this, rolling, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Okay, fine, great. You came in with your line, you did your eye line, but tell me, I feel like this is more interesting because you're not doing the Cheetos. I'm not sitting, but imagine I was sitting and maybe I had my knee up or something, because I would have my actors sitting for that. So they're like watching TV, eating Cheetos, and then they see their friend go over to the stepper. Well, first of all, their friend never works out. So they see their friend going over there and they're like, "What are you doing?" It gives it such a nicer, like, the who, what, when, why, where. You're watching the TV, you see your friend, and then you're like, what are you doing? "Oh, I'm working out. Your mom said I could use it." So you give something before your first line. I didn't ad lib, but I did a nonverbal ad lib. Okay. So ad libbing throughout. I think if it's a script, because I know for sure in the middle of the script, I'm like, "Oh my God, this would be so genius if you just add this, like this look or this beat, or like add this thing, it'd be very funny." I think ad libs do have to be specific. So if you ad lib in the middle, I think it's great. I think the main thing I want to impart is that a lot of sloppy ad libbing happens when an actor is nervous or doesn't know the script. So it ends up being like, not only are they really not off book, but they're just like throwing things in. And it's not a good look. It's not really professional. I think ad libs should be like, so that they're just on the other end laughing. Or if it's a serious scene, they're like, "Whoa, that was so good." So it's something that punctuates, adds to a scene. Otherwise, keep them at the beginning of the scene or the end. as a button after the last line. Okay, let me see. Oh, okay, one quick thing. I put this thing that came to me the other day. When you cut corners, you cut opportunities. And I wrote that down because this is totally like not what I was just talking about. But the thing I was saying earlier about, you know, learning how to do your home studio, the setup. I really feel like if, you know, especially in the coronavirus time, whatever, there's so many self-tapes. If you are getting a lot of auditions, if you have representation, or if you're an actor that's submitting yourself for things, student films, independent films, whatever, and you're getting stuff and they want it on tape, I do feel like you have to invest a little time, obviously, and a little money into your setup. Because when you cut corners, you cut opportunities. So when, you know, the lighting is horrible, like super yellow. Like I have my lights on right now. They're pretty close to daylight, which is 5,500, by the way, you guys, if you're getting light bulbs, 5,500 Cree. Let me show you. Wait, I'm going to grab one. Okay, this is like the only thing I'll maybe mention about a home setup. I don't know. Can you guys even see that? Oh wow, you can't. Wait, daylight. Okay, on the corner, it says daylight 5,000. So my lights that I have a temperature controller. So depending on your skin tone too, you might want to warm it up if you have something you can control, or make it brighter. But you want to get the light bulbs that are daylight, because anything yellower than that looks horrible. Oh my God, I totally forgot where I was. Oh, cutting corners cuts opportunities. So if you're auditioning a lot from home, do your homework, do the work. Get good lights, make sure the sound is good. You don't have to invest a lot of money. If you have a blank wall, that's fine. If you can not afford a sheet, that's silly. Of course you could, but like a backdrop or use a sheet, don't cut those corners, because you could be like a phenomenal actor taping from home, and just because they can't see you or hear you, or it just looks really bad, you could be out of the running. And that's crazy, because you did like a really good audition. That's all I'm saying. So Lines Physicality blinking. I feel like you guys probably already know this, like when you get your audition, being familiar with your sides, especially because we can stream everything. So if it's a show that's already on the air and you've never seen it, obviously I feel like you guys know, try to stream it, watch it, because each show has just such a different vibe and a feel, a pacing. Like my clients have booked just because like I knew or they knew what the style of the show was. Like I'll give NCIS, for example, because they're always sending stuff out. They're not going to bring you in for like a series regular on NCIS. It's already an established show. Tons of co-stars and guest stars. Susan Bluestein and Jason Kennedy are casting all the time, and they just want actors to come in, be prepared, do their lines, not do too much, because you never overshadow the star of the show, and leave. And if you do that on your first audition there, they will call you in every single time until you book, because they just want an actor they can trust to know the show. You come in, you do your lines, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, this is great. We can send them to set. So that's what I mean about knowing the show, especially with comedy. You know, what type of, is it modern family comedy, or is it, this is so outdated, but you know, Married with Children, like boom, boom. Those things make a huge difference. I feel like you guys probably already know this, being familiar with the style. Now, if it's a pilot or a feature film, something that you can't reference, I actually love those the most, because you have freedom to play. Yeah, it's a pilot. They've given you like a little description of what the show's about, what your character description, but then it's nothing that's been done before. So I feel like you have more liberties to just come at them. Like maybe you're just not feeling the character description at all based on the script. I'm like, do you, because there's no one else in the world like you. It's a pilot, and you just come in with something that's not what they were expecting. You're still reading the script, but a totally different character choice. You you can change people's minds and book a role just because you felt so deeply, this is how the character should be. So pilots, feature films that, you know, have nothing to reference, just make it your own. And obviously, if you read it and you agree with exactly how they broke down the character, that's totally fine. But you have more room to play because there's no, you know, standard for that. I felt like, okay, wait. Where was that? Okay, we're good on time. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions while I kind of find my way in my notes? Yeah, I can't.
Deb, it's Brenda.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Deb, you talked about driving and cell phones.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask 2 questions about both of those.
Okay.
If you were talking about driving like crazy, right? Which we all know that's kind of stupid. But what about, can you see me? Am I visible to you?
Yeah.
What about like this?
That's great.
That works well, right?
Yes.
And even 2 hands, you know?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And good. And usage of the back seat, you know, if you're just kind of like,
oh my God.
Works.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about was cell phone. You were taking your cell phone and you were doing this down here.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better to have it up in screen so we know it's actually the cell phone when you go like that?
Yes.
Because you had it off screen when you were demonstrating.
Yeah. And I know, I feel like the Zoom thing's a little tighter than I normally probably have an actor cropped here.
Right.
There's no rule to that. I feel like if you pull out your phone, like right now, you guys can't see it. I think if I'm looking at my little JPEG and you're doing it, that's fine too. But like being like this is fine too, as long as you've worked it out. Because a lot of times actors will like block the light. So no, it can totally be in frame as long as you're not doing this. I've just had some really good scenes where the actor, because I'm reading with them, I didn't notice that they were doing something funny and I'm like, oh my God. And then I have to crop them really tight so that their fingers don't show, if that makes sense. But no, having the phone, especially if you're like doing a FaceTime thing with someone or on the audition and you're like, hey, okay, yeah, the phone can be seen.
Good.
As long as you're using it well.
Those were my only questions so far. Thanks.
The driving thing, let me see if I put this down and like sit. Brenda, you did that like well where, you know.
You're just on the edge of your camera.
Yeah, you're just on the edge with
so
it.
You would want it, yeah. So
one hand,
you know,
or
you really
people do the,
you just kind of want to make sure that you're, it depends upon your framing, of course.
Exactly. And I
mean, you don't want to be here and drive.
Yeah. Well, no, really, the funny thing is about it is actors all of a sudden, I'm like, your steering wheel isn't that big. It's just this weird thing that because when we drive, we do it subtle. We just have our hands here or here. But the minute we have to fake it, where people are like doing this. So what you did was great. Just like a simple, you're driving, you know, whatever the scene is. If it's a scene where I have had, which is kind of complicated, when the whole scene's in a car, I'll turn the chair on an angle, but still making sure the eye lines are right. Because let's say the driver is talking to the passenger. I'll just do a little angle and I won't have them maybe do this unless it really like they're turning, but just that little angle. And then it looks like you're driving a little, maybe I put the windshield there and then you're talking, you're like, yeah.
Well, that's a good one, Deb. Good,
yeah,
thanks.
It is? Okay, cool.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? Or I'll try to find where I was with. I felt like, well, chime in if you have questions. I'm just gonna kind of see where I left off because, slating. Okay, this will tie into actually something important. The directions you receive on a self-tape. Oh my gosh, you guys, seriously, even for me, who's a professional doing this for actors, I'm just like, wait, what? Sometimes they are so in depth, especially if you're getting shows in Atlanta. Atlanta don't play. Oh my gosh, the casting directors in Atlanta, it'll be a page of instructions. It's capital underscore space, character name underscore S1, T1. You're like, okay, must be under 500 megabytes. You're like, okay, it's kind of stressful. So read, read, read. It'll tell you, sometimes there's no slating instructions. Don't do a slate. You should be like, yes, no slate. Because when they want you to slate, you best believe there's so many instructions. So now the slates are your name, your height, where you live, and where you're based. Because they're like, we don't want to fly anyone during Corona. So it's like, I live in LA, I'm based in LA. They want to know if you have a passport, a green card. There's so much stuff. So, do the slate, obviously. And then there's all these like full body slates. They want, I usually would do, this is what I'll do. And maybe if you guys are taping yourselves, you can do this too. Do your slate like this up here. Hi, I'm Debbie Wittenberg. I'm 5'3", live in Los Angeles, based in Los Angeles. Thank you. And then back your camera up, go back as far as you can in your room and do your best to get a full body in a, and then just edit them together. So it's your slate and then like 3 seconds of the full body, you're done. But it's a lot. And then those uploading and labeling instructions are really important. So just be really careful about your labeling. And don't upload to YouTube or Vimeo. I feel like Vimeo is really popular for a lot of actors, but a lot of it's NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and they don't want their stuff visible. So I would say just be safe. WeTransfer, Google Drive, Dropbox. Or then you have to make your Vimeo private with a password. And it's like, honestly, I just feel like they'd be like, we don't have time for that. You want to make it easy for them and then have a great audition. And they're like, oh my God, let's cast her, or him. Okay. Or they, if you don't go by certain pronouns. Okay. Oh, wait. Slating instructions, uploading, got that. Creating, playing physicality. I can't, if anyone, I'm not really great at the whole Zoom thing. So like I can see Brenda right now, but if anyone else has a question, like, and you hit probably your audio and video, just like chime in. So if you don't feel comfortable shooting at home, you don't have a great space. There's no great lighting. Your neighbor upstairs is always whatever. It's noisy. You have 10 roommates, and you want to find a studio. Now in coronavirus, there are studios open. Obviously I'm open. I have protocols, as far as, when they come in, sanitizing, I never take my mask off. Obviously it says don't come if you're not feeling well or if you've been traveling in the past 14 days, all that stuff. But let's say you're healthy, you're good to go, you want to go to a studio. I think my biggest thing is, and again, it might take some trial and error, you have to find a studio you're comfortable with, someone that you like working with. And there's all different kinds of studios out there. There's the ones where it's just in and out, and they just, not like they just want their money, but you know what I mean. You ask for 30 minutes, you're getting 30 minutes. And you leave, and you probably leave and do that actor thing where you do your audition better in your car after you've left. And you're like, why didn't I do that in there? It's so good in my mirror in the car. So find someone you're comfortable with. It might take a couple different studios, but someone that, the energy is good. You feel calm. You feel like you're not being rushed. They're really helping you get good auditions. And then, just have that be your go-to. Otherwise, do the best you can at home. That is something I wanted to say. Casting directors, everyone knows what's going on in the world right now. So even the tapes where the lighting is bad or you had to pull it together at the last minute, I feel like they're extra understanding. So don't stress yourself out about it. People are booking from literally crazy stuff. So you don't have to go to a studio and buy expensive equipment. Okay, now let me, oh gosh, well, I can't see or hear you guys because I wanted to ask if anyone does video games or motion capture stuff, Pcap. Okay, I'll just do it quickly then. I'll just mention it because the Health Network.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. So for video game Pcap, Mocap auditions, okay, I'm not going to talk about if you're doing it at home or at a studio. For the most part, this is like where you drop all the rules. They don't care about the background. They don't care if you're outside. They just want to see, especially for performance capture, from head to toe. So like, for instance, today and tomorrow, I'm literally like after this webinar booked up with a huge video game audition that's due tomorrow. And I'm shooting people in my living room. I'm not even in the studio because there's action and movement. So this is where all the rules don't apply. You're gonna, they need to see your body because obviously they're gonna be using your likeness or your body likeness, and it will say in the instructions if they're using facial likeness or if it's just body. So if they're gonna do facial likeness, at least on the slate, or at some point I would try to get one shot or one part of the scene maybe a little bit closer so they can really see your facial expressions. Otherwise, just let them see you. So now, this is when every stage direction, you're going to, like, I have it set up today because, they're walking around, they're walking around, they're talking, they come over here and they're on a computer, and then they're like doing all this business. So I have like different key points set up so that they can walk over to this place, and I have my laptop for them. And they're like, yeah, whatever the line is, blah, blah, blah. And then they go over there and they grab a coffee. I mean, I will have them do everything. And like all the weapons stuff, like I have props. You guys can get props. Okay, whatever. So like guns, for sure. You're in motion cap, Pcap, do everything. And don't be shy about it. Use your space. Always, the eye lines are important because I'll get actors doing this or like blocking their light. So you just, but you want to do everything. Pulling out your gun. If you have a knife, back off. Or you'll find which one looks better. I don't know if crossing my body or this. Back off. You know what I mean? You're going to use your knife, like everything. So you try to do all of the stage direction. And here's one thing I've noticed with my video game actors that come into tape, my voiceover actors, I mean, don't forget your voice, because a lot of times they get so into doing all this stuff, which is obviously very cool, but then they forget it's also the voiceover. And it will say in the instructions, because I have had some where it's like, it's just Pcap, you're not using your voice. Then it's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But a lot of times it's like VO, facial capture, performance capture, all of that. So don't forget, whatever the character is, you have to do the voice, the body, it's like everything. Walking, let's talk about this, because there'll be instructions where they'll ask for, and then do a separate clip where you're walking. You do like, so this one today is kind of like you're kind of idling and then walking. So this is what they mean by that. Don't walk in character. They actually literally want to see how you walk as a person. Like where, so I know my screen's not big, but like, you're just going to walk back and forth in front of the camera for them, because they can see, are you someone that moves their arms a lot when they walk? Do you lead with your head? What's your thing? They're just trying to get a gauge of literally how you walk as a person. And then you'll, whatever the character is, if they're a certain way, you can do that. But they just want to see you walk. It's super simple. Just walk back and forth. Maybe you can do one where you walk towards the camera or you walk back. And it sounds like really, it's like daunting, but it's just pretty easy. Props, improv, ad-libbing. I would say maybe not so much improv or ad-libbing in the middle of the video game, but like I do like a button on the end of it. I just think it makes a good audition, period. So like anything, a nonverbal, especially because it's voiceover. So for the voiceover talent, we know how important not nonverbal, guttural noises and things, not using words. So you can do buttons like, as like a button on the end or something like that. But so you can ad lib in that way. I don't know. I think that's my biggest for it. Follow the stage directions, shoot yourself as wide as you can, and just don't be shy and commit to all the actions. So don't do like, unless it says the character picks up the gun and doesn't know how to use it, but you know, do the stuff in the face and the gun and all of it. And if it's a knife fight, yeah, 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 like you can really get into it. Okay. If anyone has more questions, I'm super happy to email about that. Okay, so really quickly, and then maybe we'll wrap up, or if anyone has questions, I wanted to talk about my theory on what I think makes for an amazing audition. So just the other night when I was sitting down, kind of organizing myself, I was like, okay, there's two dynamics. This is all my opinion, you guys. Two dynamics that turn an audition into a booking, or that just make an audition stand out. And so I said it's like rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time. So at first, when you do that, you know, when you're a kid and someone's like, rub your belly and pat your head, you're like, I can't do it. And then all of a sudden, you know, you can do it without thinking about it. That's what these self-tapes are about. And what I mean is simultaneously, you have to be present, free, and spontaneous with your acting, but precise, clean, and calculated with your action. So be present, free, and spontaneous with your acting. Be precise, clean, and calculated with your action. So what I mean by that is, be prepared with your audition, your character, your lines. If you have a certain way you want to deliver it, fine. But when you're in the room and with the reader, or if you have a Zoom callback with the casting director, you have to be spontaneous and free and have discoveries in the scene and unexpected moments that just come up in life that you didn't rehearse or practice, right? So you want to be like comfortable enough with the sides where you can be present, free, and spontaneous with your acting. The catch is to be precise, clean, and calculated with your action. So that part has to be so mapped out. You have to know, even if you don't know all the lines, you have to know where your character is at every moment. And the action has to be so crisp. So it's like, let's say, I'll just give maybe one example. Let's say it's a comedy. So maybe it's a single space comedy, and whatever the lines are, he says something that maybe you're like, oh my God. And then, you know, you give your friend a look, and then you say something to him like, you're ridiculous. So here's what I mean about the acting being free, but the action being precise. So let me try to do it for you guys. You're ridiculous. So it sounds weird, or maybe you guys can't see it, but it's this beat thing. You heard what he said, you looked at your friend, you looked back at him, and then you're like, you're ridiculous. It's such a clean thing. It looks so great on camera versus, and you're ridiculous. The line "you're ridiculous" might come out 100 different ways when you're reading with someone, but you've got that beat worked out so well. So that's in your body, you know, and then you are ridiculous. Like, let's say they're like, go bigger. You're still going to do your crisp beats, but then your lines, your acting is spontaneous and free. Anyway, that's just what I feel like has really worked. And just the basic, I guess, but kind of important, the who, what, when, why, where of the self-tape. So, you know, and this is true for voiceover too. Like, one of the biggest feedbacks I get from my agent is, who are you talking to? And I'm like, okay, I'll re-record. I'm talking to my best friend, Jenny. So the same thing with the scenes. Who are you? Who are you talking to? Who are you talking about? Who are you thinking about? Like, and then how do you feel about them? That will already establish a really nice scene if that's all you consider. And then the what are you doing in this scene? So that kind of lends to the action. You know, you're sitting, you're standing, you're pacing, like, what are you doing actually? What did you do right before the scene took place? Like in life, what did you do right before you started your self-tape? You had breakfast, your mom called you like, Mom, I can't talk right now. I have to do this self-tape. it's the same with the scene. What was your character doing right before the scene takes place? And then what are you going to do when the scene's over, so that you're not the frozen actor or the actor that runs off? And then the when does it take place? I mean, it's like, we're not going to see that in the audition, but it just helps you creating the world, which inevitably will create a great audition. Is it early in the morning and you're tired and it doesn't say it in the script, but you're kind of still like wiping the sleep out? Or is it late at night and you've had the longest day and now your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other wants to start a fight with you? That stuff's important. When. Also, when in the life of your character, you know? Yeah, whatever. Okay. The why. Why are you having this conversation? And this came up for me. I realized this is not like original thought. I mean, all these things, you know, from my acting coaches over the years and things I've learned. But if you think of every scene as being a discovery, it really kind of makes sense, especially for auditions. Like if someone's starting a fight with you, as you're fighting, you're discovering something like, wait, you think that about me? Oh my God. Why haven't you ever told me? Like, you're discovering something in that fight. Or if your boss comes in, they want to talk to you about something. Just kind of, if you think about it, every scene you get for an audition is a discovery. And then the where. So where are you? Are you at home? Are you at someone else's home? Are you in the office? And then how do you feel about it? Are you a little uncomfortable because you've never been to the person you're dating's house and you don't know whatever? Or are you walking into this office for the first time for an interview and it is surprisingly not welcoming and friendly? So all of those things, I feel like your self-tape is going to pop if you bring that element in when you're prepping. Okay, I don't know. I guess I'm done. I could go on forever, but you guys can, if anyone pops on with a question, I'm happy to answer that, or email me after, whatever, I'll get back to you. I guess, I don't know. You're welcome. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you guys so much. Okay, bye.
Good job, Deb.
Oh, thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome, darling. Love you. Bye.
Thank you so very much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I can hear people now. How are you?
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Rebecca.
Thank you.
That was super helpful.
Yeah.
So nice to see your face.
That was awesome.
Super
you, guys.
helpful.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm always here for you. So email, call Rebecca. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.